Do, 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 do. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Not too long ago, I started a fun little YouTube channel called Left of the Box. I wanted to continue to get the progressive message out there after failing at politics, which meant to promote it, I had to join social media. The only social media I had at that point was a Facebook page I set up a year previously, and that was for my political run. The people on there are people I know in real life, and I'm barely on it. I also know, even though many of the people in my life want to support me, they aren't necessarily engaged in politics, so won't find my content that appealing, which I completely understand. I needed to expand my reach. With all the YouTube shows I watched and their constant mentioning of Twitter, that seemed like the natural place to go. I worked at growing my account by following people who seemed interested in the same political stuff as me. Almost all the people I'm mutuals with are new to my circle. As I was connecting with people, something happened. My tiny bubble grew big enough that the Americans could shoot it down with a $400,000 Sidewinder missile. And it was because of that I realized I'm autistic. You see, while I know a few people who are autistic, they're nothing like me. And like with many neurodivergent people, I had always gravitated towards other neurodivergent people. So a lot of my telling traits didn't seem that unusual. But I struggled with new people, workplaces, maintaining relationships, most of which I brushed off as me being diagnosed as bipolar and my depression. I felt like it was my fault, like I was doing everything wrong and that there simply wasn't anything interesting or good enough about me to keep people in my life. But on Twitter, I connected with other content creators and I was exposed to other people's experiences. People with autism would talk about their life and it was like they were pulling these stories from my life. And from there, I was able to connect the dots. I've known I'm dyslexic ever since I was a child. I came to realize the ADHD and OCD later in life, although I've never officially been diagnosed. What I knew of autism was on the extremes of the spectrum and from people unable to mask, so as far as I knew, I wasn't autistic. But I didn't have an understanding of what it meant to be actually autistic. Once I started researching it, it became unbelievably clear. That is what I've been dealing with all my life. Knowing what I know now, looking back at my life, so many things make so much more sense. Since the way I figured it out was from hearing other autistic people tell their stories, I want to share my stories and hopefully help other people come to realize or understand their autism. I figured the best way to start off this series would be with the experience I heard from someone else that was so similar to mine. It was my light bulb moment. As a child, I was having troubles hearing people. I'd be in a room with someone and they'd be talking to me and I didn't know. Or someone would ask me to do something and I did it wrong, which was indicating I wasn't hearing what they were saying. So I was taken to get my hearing tested. I was nervous and worried I would do the test wrong or that my hearing was actually bad. When I was sitting in the sound booth with the headphones on and the person operating the equipment said, "Put your finger up as soon as you hear a sound," I did. To which the operator said, "There's been no sound yet." Only there was. This happened a couple times during the test. What was happening was I heard the electrical buzz of the equipment as soon as it was turned on to send the signal and thought that was the sound I was supposed to respond to. So I was confused. And when the signals were sent, they were super clear. There was nothing wrong with my hearing. And like with many autistic people, I'm very sensitive to sounds. This wasn't good for me. It meant it was my fault. I wasn't paying attention. I was being rude. I was choosing to do things wrong or wasn't smart enough to figure them out. I didn't have the language or the awareness back then to explain what was happening. I do now. If someone starts talking, unless they indicate they're talking to me, like saying my name or seeking some acknowledgement on my part that I'm listening, I won't register they're talking to me. If I'm paying attention to something else like the TV or drawing, I block out excess noise so I can focus on what I'm paying attention to. So in that case, I actually didn't hear what they were saying. If I'm told to do something and I do it wrong, or I need to ask a bunch of questions and get them to repeat themselves, it's because the instructions don't make sense to me, which means I'm unsure how to respond, or I interpret it wrong and respond in a way they weren't expecting. I also take things too literal and get confused when instructions seemingly contradict. I may need to be shown how to do something versus trying to figure out what a person means when they're explaining it to me verbally. Another instance in which I don't respond to people is when I don't know how to respond, or I didn't know I was supposed to. If I'm in a room with someone and there's a window and they say, "It's raining outside," I don't acknowledge it because why? It's neither a question nor in need of correction, yet people are put off when you don't respond to random statements. It's like they need some sort of validation what they said was true or want praise for pointing it out. This is when my sarcasm started to develop. Internally, of course, I didn't dare say this out loud at first. Ah, yes, it is indeed raining outside. I would have never figured it out had you not announced that is what the wet stuff pouring from the sky is. It's good to know because if I had planned to go outside, I now know to take an umbrella to protect myself. Otherwise, I'd be clueless and get soaking wet. But since I'm not planning on going outside, this piece of information has zero impact on my life and isn't necessary for anything I'm doing today. But thank you for vocalizing the very obvious thing that is happening. Okay, so maybe I can be a little rude. Don't forget to hit buttons and leave comments. You can find me on Twitter because I pretty much live there. I'm also on TikTok and I've just signed up for Instagram. If you can, please support my content by becoming a patron or purchasing something off my wish list. Every little bit helps. Links are in the description box below. A special thanks to those of you who already have. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.